Well, what's up again there, guys? Brian here, D3 Topics Gamer, here to share with you my official Mortal Kombat spoiler review, done in a podcast style as it was voted on by all of you guys. So for all of you guys that are watching this, feel free to put this in the background because you obviously won't be seeing me, and I don't think I'll put many images up during my spoiler review. And I'm not gonna try to organize it into different sections. Pretty much my plan for this video is basically just to run down everything that happens in the movie that I can remember in order, and just go over my initial thoughts if anything kind of stood out to me or kind of bothered me as I was watching the film in general. So before I start, hope you if you happen to enjoy this kind of podcast style of spoiler review for me, I would really appreciate it if you give this video a thumbs up, and make sure to press the subscribe button if you would like to see more content from me or future contents like this. So, starting off with the very beginning, I stated in my original review that I thought the first 5 to 10 minutes that took place in feudal Japan, kind of showing the origins of how Hanzo, Sashi, and his family were killed. I thought all that was absolutely beautifully shot. I thought it looked fantastic. I thought the atmosphere was great. I thought the action was good. I thought the emotions was very well handled. And I thought this was kind of the scariest that Bihan had actually looked, because he was kind of toying with his prey before killing them. And I thought that the fight between Hanzo and Bihan was very well handled. And obviously Hanzo gets killed. A little bit saddened that they didn't even acknowledge Quan Chi, because I think Quan Chi is a very important character that you need to have when you're telling the Scorpion and Sub-Zero kind of rivalry between the Shiai Ryu and the Lin Kuei. I think that's kind of important. But there's certainly a way that you could fix that, and I'll talk more about that in a future video. So first 10 minutes, got no complaints. In fact, I would even say up to that point, I thought that this movie was going to be better than I expected. So we jump to the present, and we follow this brand new character who is screaming studio interference in the name of Cole Young. He's a UFC fighter, and he fights for $200, and I guess he was paid $200 in this first fight to kind of lose. I'm curious. I mean, if this guy gets paid to lose, I'm curious how much money do you get if you win? What's the prize for winning? Because during that fight, and I think the fight itself was okay, it seemed like he was winning. It seemed like he was winning. So maybe he threw the fight at the end, but yeah. So he loses the fight, and he's with his wife and daughter, which I thought was weird, because I thought his daughter was his sister, because I'm like, you look at that girl and she looks like 13. And Cole looks, put it like this, I think well, I'm not sure I say I look older than Cole, but with me being 30, I would bet money, I would bet $1 million that I think I'm at least older than Cole, because Cole looks like he's either in his early to possibly late 20s, maybe not late 20s. I would have said he's between 28 to 24. That's how old he looks. And his daughter looked like she was 13 or 14. So I'm like, when did he have this kid if that's his daughter? Because you could have easily have said that was his sister, and that wouldn't have changed anything at all. So then Jack shows up, and he's like, "Oh, hey, you almost won that fight there. I happen to see that dragon tattoo, that dragon birthmark of his, and the way the line is carried is just weird. He says it's a birthmark. He says, what does that mean? Oh, he was born with it. I was like, I thought that was just kind of weird. The line delivery I thought was weird, but I think the reason he asked twice about that is because Jax wasn't born with his mark. He got that from killing someone else who also had the mark. So I think in context, I understand why he would have asked that question. If someone has that mark, you would ask, how did you get that? And he was born with it. And it's like, what do you mean you were born with that? Because I wasn't born with mine. I thought you can't be born with these things. So I think that's why that question was brought up. Okay, so Cole and I guess his wife and his daughter, or could have easily have been sister, kind of go out to some place to eat. And then Sub-Zero kind of starts making it snow, and then he attacks him, and then Jack shows up, and they hop in his car, and they start driving off, and he kind of tells Cole, that mark it ain't a birthmark, it means you've been chosen to fight in this tournament. And then he leaves Cole with his family. He tells him says, take my car, go find Sonya Blade, and he's gonna take on Sub-Zero, sorry. And he just grabs his little shotgun and tries to go after him. Not really the smartest idea. I mean, Jax knows what these guys are capable of. So yeah, and I guess since Sub-Zero knows that Jax too is a Earthrealm champion, he's like, okay, I'll kill this guy, because I was originally going after Cole, but heck, this is another target I can take out right here. So Jax fights Sub-Zero, and I think the fight was wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. I can't recall if Jax got a few hits on Sub-Zero. I think he might have, but as shown in the trailer, eventually Sub-Zero kind of freezes Jax's arms and then makes him explode, and then he just kicks him off this 2-story ledge. And I'm like, the problem with this is that a lot of these characters are just going for injury kills instead of confirming kills. If you're gonna kill someone, I would have here's what I would have done if I was Sub-Zero. I would have broken up his arms, and then I would have grabbed his head, and I would have frozen his head and then crushed it. I think that would have made for an awesome fatality. I mean, if you're gonna kill someone, confirm the kill. Don't just knock them off, because it's called double tap. As Thanos famously said, you should always go for the head. If you don't go for the head, you can't confirm. In fact, most of the best fatalities involve the head in some case. Even if you go back to the first Mortal Kombat, it's Johnny Cage punches off someone's head, Sub-Zero rips off someone's head with their spinal cord. I mean, at least Kano rips someone's heart out, and Scorpion sets someone on fire so that their whole skeleton burnt, their body burns up. And I think Sonya does the same thing. I think the guy who has the worst fatality in that first game was Liu Kang. He does this little cartwheel kick in. Yeah. Okay, so Cole drives he drops off his family, and then he goes to Sonya Blade's location, and they have this little scuffle, and he says, Jax sent me. And then Sonya takes Cole to her place, and she has this, it's weird, she works with special forces, so I'm why wouldn't here's the problem I have with this whole aspect of the knife involving the special forces. The special forces is an important part of Mortal Kombat, and so if you can confirm that there's super human people out there, don't you think this is something higher military officials would be kind of interested in? Because this isn't normal. If you're telling me that we've run into people that have these superpowers, that's a pretty serious thing. And so the fact that Sonya's the only one, apparently Sonya and Jax are the only one investigating, I thought was weird. So she's kind of explaining all this stuff to Cole, and at some point, she kind of reveals that she's already kind of kidnapped Kano, who's a murderer and a mercenary and an asshole, and Kano's making all these jokes. And I think at some point, Shang Tsung is in Outworld, which Outworld looks kind of bland, and Sub-Zero kind of appears, and he's okay, I think I killed another champion, and we need to go send Reptile to go kill the other one. And it's that's the case. And so a Reptile shows up, and he attacks Sonya and Cole, and at one point some of the acid from Reptile's mouth kind of just starts dripping from the ceiling, and Kano uses that to escape. And so you have Kano, Sonya, and Cole fighting Reptile, and he looks like a lizard. A little bit sad. I mean, I kind of would have wished they would have done something like they've done with the modern versions of Reptile, where he's not, because there have been interpretations where he is a pure reptile, a lizard kind of. I think the closest version of that I can think of is, I believe, the Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, I would say, is probably the most reptilian version of Reptile I've seen. I kind of would have wished they would have kind of had a mix between a humanoid and a lizard. So they're fighting and they're fighting, and I think Sonya throws some knives at Reptile, and I think at one point, I don't remember who does this. I don't know if it was Cole or Kano. It might have been Cole. But Cole like stabs like Reptile with like a flare that way you can see him, and then Kano fights him, and then eventually like uses his pretty much performs his fatality and rips Reptile's heart out and says Kano wins, and then there's like, okay, well, now that Reptile's dead, we need to find Raiden's temple. And Kano says, oh, I know where that is. It's like, I got a plane, and I'm only gonna do this if you pay me like money. And Sonya says like, oh, well, how about 2 million? And Kano says, oh no, I want 3 million. Says, okay. And Cole says, all right, Sonya, you really have like $3 million? So they say, hell no. You think I live in this shithole? You think I have $3 million? Like, so that's like a funny little quip. And I almost forgot this, but like at some point, like Kano was complaining about something, and he like spits a loogie at like some little gnome. I really didn't think that was going to come up later, but it does. So they take Kano's plane and they fly somewhere, and they parachute out, and I guess they're using some sort of GPS device in order to try to find Raiden's temple. And then quite literally out of nowhere, they run into Liu Kang, who's just in the desert. Don't know why he's in the desert. I don't recall seeing a lightning bolt teleporting Liu Kang to the desert. But okay, so he just kind of walks up to them and just fires a fireball at Kano, knocking him down for no reason. I don't know why he did that. I mean, maybe that was just to get a reaction from Kano, who's like, wait a minute, you just fired a fireball. Like, yes, it's like, yes, I'm not your enemy, and this is the way to Raiden's temple. So they go to Raiden's temple, and he introduces them to Raiden, and I have to say, I really didn't like the portrayal of Raiden in this film. I mean, not so much as powers, and I totally forgot that. Oh dear, I totally forgot. I know I'll talk about this later, but I really did not. I think this is like the snarkiest Raiden I've ever seen. Like, Raiden is supposed to be kind of wise and encouraging, and like the first thing he says is, "Oh God, this is what I have to work with. These are my champions. You guys are useless." And it's like, I'm like, you're supposed to be encouraging, like, oh, like a wise mentor. Like, even when they're screwing up, you need to encourage them to do better. And he's like, okay, well, you need to unlock your arcanas, like your powers. Otherwise, you can't really do anything. And I think at some point that, I believe, like, Sonya finds that, Jax is there. And I guess, like, Raiden teleported Liu Kang to Jax's location and teleported him right back, and so that's how he's there. And this whole thing about Raiden teleporting thing. If Raiden can teleport, they acknowledge this in the film. If Raiden can teleport anyone anywhere, and he is the guardian of Earth, wouldn't he kind of know where everybody is? So anyone who's trying to find his location, he would just teleport them to his temple and save them all this time. Like, if you know that Jax and Sonya, especially Jax, if you know that Jax has been looking for Cole, he's been trying to find these champions, and you know this, wouldn't it just make more sense to just teleport Jax and Cole to the temple and kind of explain the situation? But of course, plot reasons, you need Sonya there. And so we go back to Outworld, or I think we go back to Outworld. Maybe there's a scene with Outworld. But, Sub-Zero attacks the temple, and he knocks Liu Kang up. Like, Liu Kang fires a fireball at him, and then he dodges and throws an ice ball at Liu Kang, knocking him back, and he starts freezing him, and then Kung Lao's hat comes in and knocks him, makes a save. And I think it's a pretty cool scene. This is a cool-ass scene. Kung Lao is my second favorite Mortal Kombat character of all time. And his entrance was ripped straight out of the game. I have no complaints. Some people said it looked kind of corny, but I loved it. Okay, so Liu Kang and Kung Lao are standing guard, and Shang Tsung just walks in with, I believe, Melita and Sub-Zero. I don't remember if there was anyone else there, but I just distinctly remember that it was just Shang Tsung, Sub-Zero, and Melina. Maybe there was someone else there, but I can't really remember. And then, so he's like, he just kind of barges in, and just like, oh, take whatever treasures you want, but their souls are mine. It's like, I don't recall Shang Tsung being obsessed with soul stealing. I mean, that's what he does, but he's not like obsessed with it. It's just something that he does, which is weird. Like, even in the original 1995 version, like, he's not obsessed with taking souls. It's just that's just something he can do. But his objective is to win the 10th Mortal Kombat tournament and please his master, Shao Kahn. That's what he's focused on. And they don't even acknowledge Shao Kahn in this. Like, he's acting like he's like the big baddie. He's the boss here, but he's just he's a subordinate. He has a boss who he does not want to piss off, because otherwise he himself will be screwed. So Shang Tsung and his forces attack Raiden's temple, and then Raiden just shows up and he says, "You can't be here." And he's like, "Well, we're just gonna wipe out your champions before the tournament." And okay, I almost forgot about this, but I think at some point, I don't remember if this is true or not, but at some point, like, I think this happened earlier in the film, where Shang Tsung is talking to Sub-Zero, and he kind of tells it, we need to win this last tournament, and there's not going to be a tournament because we're gonna wipe out their champions. And I believe at some other scene, Shang Tsung is talking to Melina, and he says, like, "Well, how do you think we won the previous 9 Mortal Kombats? You think we won by following the rules?" So apparently, so you're telling me that for like the last 9 Mortal Kombats, Shang Tsung has won these tournaments just by wiping out the champions and winning by default. So you're telling me there's never actually been an official Mortal Kombat tournament. So the previous 9 victories were won because you wiped out the opposing team before the tournament even happened. Now, if that's the case, you would think that after like the first or second time, if Raiden is the guardian of Earthrealm, you'd think he would have like a whole bunch of different, contingency plans or defenses to protect his fighters so that this doesn't happen. But apparently he's failed like 9 other times. So that just bothered the hell out of me. So Raiden, like, drops his staff and summons this force field, and that's supposed to keep him out. I'm like, okay. So Liu Kang and Kung Lao and Cole Young and Kano go to this like training circle to train in order to unlock their power. And so they're training, and it's got a few cool moments. Like Kung Lao is training with Cole and Liu Kang is training with Kano, and it's funny how Liu Kang keeps spamming the sweep, because for anyone who actually remembers playing the old first Mortal Kombat game in the 90s, that would be annoying. Like if you were new to the game and you didn't know all the special abilities, if you found like a really, really good move, you would just spam the hell out of it. And for Liu Kang in general, like his sweep was like annoying. So I love how they included that. And we go back to Outworld, and Shang Tsung is you see the rest of Shang Tsung's crew, and it's filled with, I think, Sub-Zero, Cabal, Melina, and Riku. I'll be honest, I'm going to say something about Riku. One, I don't think that guy had a single line in the whole film, and I didn't even know who that character was until, like, I watched a few other reviews. But apparently this character was in Mortal Kombat 4, which explains a lot, because Mortal Kombat 4 was awful. And I believe he was in, I don't even know if he was in Armageddon. I don't remember him being in Armageddon, but I had no idea who this character was. But apparently, I did some research on him afterwards. Apparently this character is pretty big in like the comic books. Like he's like a general for Shao Kahn. And like in this new timeline, the NetherRealm timeline, he's actually a pretty important character who does some pretty significant things. So, he's pretty much treated like a jobber here. He's just there to get killed and, just to take up space. And so Shang Tsung talking with his crew, saying, "Oh, I need to bring down Raiden's shield so we can wipe out his champions." And then Cabal comes in and has like the strangest accent ever. Like he's like he's talking like he's from Brooklyn, man. It's like, yeah, you hear a guy down there named Kano? Yeah, he's a complete fucking asshole. You'll love him. Like it was weird. It was like a cartoon bad guy. I was like, who picked that accent? I'm like, It was so bizarre. And so Cabal goes down to Raiden's temple and he sees Kano across from the electric barrier, and he's like, "Hey, Kano," is like, you should join our side because heck, we'll give you money. It's like, take whatever you want. Like you can even turn Raiden's temple into your own casino. And wait a second, I'm forgetting something. Okay, wait. Let me back up. This is why this is so weird to do without like a list of structures of how to do this. But okay, so right, so Cole, so at some point, the Earthrealm champions are training, and they sit down and have dinner, and like Kung Lao and Liu Kang start making fun of Kano, and Kano gets really pissed off, and he unlocks his Arcana, which is it gets a laser eye, and he's, okay, so that's cool. So Cole is still training, and he can't unlock his Arcana, and he's just kind of like distracted with his family. And Raiden just pretty much says, "You know what? You're too distracting. You're pretty much useless. Just go home." And Cole's like, "Okay, yeah, I'll just go home." Like, this is our main character. This is who we're supposed to be rooting for. This is who we're supposed to be relating for. And he's a complete quitter. And he goes home, not thinking that, if you like, did he even consider that the only reason that these people are safe is because they're at his temple behind this barrier? So if you send him home, Shang Tsung's gonna attack him. Like, but maybe that was part of Raiden's plan. It's like, oh, well, maybe if he goes home and he'll get attacked, like, maybe his Arcana will pop up. Maybe that was his thinking. I don't know. They don't really say if Raiden's the type of person who thinks ahead. So going back to Cabal. So Cabal talks to Kano, and he pretty much says, "Look, if you join our side, name a price, double it, triple it, and then double it again." And then that's enough to convince Kano to switch sides and betray the Earthrealm champions, which is perfectly fine because, Kano was going to switch sides anyway. I just thought it would be, like, a little bit more convincing. So he goes and he destroys the staff that starts up the barrier, and so the barrier goes down, and Shang Tsung starts attacking the temple. And I think, like, Melina attacks Sonya, and Raikou attacks Jax, and Cabal attacks Liu Kang, and Goro attacks Cole at his house, but we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that now. So Goro is supposed to be like Shang Tsung's best fighter. This is the guy who killed like the legendary Kung Lao all those Mortal Kombats ago, and so he's fighting Cole. Like he should have ripped this boy to pieces in like a second, but like he's trying his best to fight, and at some point his wife gets involved and like stabs Goro in the back with like an axe, and she gets knocked back, and like before like his family gets killed, like his Arcana activates with thanks to this bracelet that his daughter gave him at the beginning of the film, which I didn't even bother mentioning. And so he has this like armor that pretty much is like a Black Panther suit, because every time he takes a hit, he just takes the force of the impact and can just fire it right back at his opponents. And then out of nowhere, this suit of armor can like generate weapons. And so he's using these weapons, and he's fighting Goro, and he cuts Goro's hand off, and then he cuts open his stomach to reveal his intestines. I think he stabs him in the eye, and he kills Goro that way. And so back at Raiden's temple, so the Earthrealm temple champions are getting their ass kicked. Jax is getting beat up by Raikou. Melina like pretty much beats the crap out of Sonya and stabs her in the arm and licks her blade. And I'm like, okay, why doesn't Melina just kill Sonya right there? And she says, "Oh, this isn't the blood of a champion." It's like, Melina is like a bloodthirsty, like meat-eating psychopath. Who cares if like this is not a champion? Like she gets off on killing people. So I don't believe that she would just stab Sonya and then let her live. Like, Melina would have gone to town and turned Sonya into her own personal buffet. Like, while everyone's fighting, I'm gonna just have Sonya as a meal. Like, that's what Melina would have really done. So, oh dear, oh man, dude, I'm so all over the place because I forgot about Nitara, who isn't even really a big character in the game. So she only appeared like in 2 of them anywhere, and I believe she even had a cameo when the Mortal Kombat animated film Scorpion's Revenge. I don't even think she had a line. So apparently at some point, like, Cole shows up, and he unlocked his Arcana, and Raiden shows up. Now this is the part that just drove me insane. So at some point Raiden comes back. I didn't even know Raiden was gone. the last time I saw Raiden, he was at the temple. So Raiden just pops up and like teleports Cole back, and it's like, thanks for helping Cole discover his arcana, and the prophecy and the Hanzo prophecy will now be fulfilled. And he like teleports everyone like away, and I'm like, wait a minute, stop right there. You are in your house. This is your temple. Shang Tsung and his cronies are in your temple, and you can teleport anyone anywhere. Why are you running? Why don't you just teleport all of them out? I mean, this is like, they never established like this. Like, Raiden is the god of thunder. He's not an elder god, but like he is someone who should not. Oh dear, my phone just went off. Like, he is a character who should not be messed with. Like, the first meeting between the two sides, like, Raiden really should have, like, should have gone up in Shang Tsung's face and says, hey, buddy, it's like, you're gonna follow the rules. Like, I don't care if the elder gods, aren't paying attention or are lazy. Like, I'm not gonna just sit here and let you do this. And it's like, he really should have threatened Shang Tsung, and Shang Tsung should have, like, backed off, and like he needed to show why he was a threat. Like, look, I may not be able to interfere with like events in the tournament, but like before the tournament, like, you ain't messing with these rules. He really should have done that. And so at some point, like, they should have, like, Shang Tsung should have done something to like cause a distraction that requires Raiden to leave the temple. That way he isn't there, so we can plan an attack there. That's what should have happened. But okay, so he like tries to teleport everyone away. Cole gets knocked down. Kung Lao shows up, and then Natara shows up, and she flies towards Kung Lao. Like Kung Lao throws his hat at Shang Tsung and he misses. And Natara kind of flies down to attack him, and he jumps on Natara, summons his hat, turns it on like a saw blade, cuts her in half. It's pretty awesome. And then out of nowhere, this was shocking to me, but like after he kills Natara, like he just like pulls Kung Lao towards him and starts like trying to suck his soul. Now, I understand that this is what he does, but I was always under the indication that Shang Tsung cannot just suck someone's soul. They have to be injured or beat up, and this would have been like a perfect opportunity to show just like why Shang Tsung is a real threat. Like, have Kung Lao actually try to engage him, and then just get like beat up. Like, I don't know, like have him like grab Kung Lao and then have him like slam him on the ground or slam him to some pillars or just or like fuck him up first. Like, get him really beat up and weaken, and then start draining his soul. And I understand, like, because to have Kung Lao go out like that, I was like really pissed off, because he is one of my all-time favorite Mortal Kombat characters, and I understand in the context in the long run, I'm okay with Kung Lao being killed by Shang Tsung, because this now causes a personal issue between him and Liu Kang for future films. So now, if we ever get a sequel, which it looks like we might, there's absolutely no reason to have Cole be the primary focus. Now you can switch it to Liu Kang, because now Liu Kang has to be the one to take down Shang Tsung and therefore free Kung Lao, his cousin, his friend, his brother, to free his soul. This makes perfect sense. And so Kung Lao gets killed. Liu Kang and Cole get teleported, and before that, Jax is like trying to save Sonya, who got thrown over a boulder, and then his arms just pop up, which I thought was silly, because they should have been like the whole Arcana thing. I've already spoke more about that in my original review, but it's just ridiculous. So Jax has his arm, Sonya's okay, and then like Raiden teleports him to the void. It's like the space between realms. And I was like, wait a minute, if there's a space like this, why don't you just teleport us here to train here where we're safe? So like everyone's kind of sad that Kung Lao is dead, and then Cole tries to take this leadership role, saying, okay, wait a second, it's not over yet. We have to take control of the fight. We need to separate them. So here's what's gonna happen. So Jax, you're gonna take on Raikou. I don't even here's the funny part, that it's small attention to detail. Does anyone even remember someone saying Raikou's name? So how the heck does Jax know who that guy is? So there's this small little nitpick. So Jax is going to take on Raikou, and Sonya's going to take on Jax, teleport to her apartment, and then Cole and Liu Kang are going to take on Cabal and Melina, And then once they've taken care of those four, they're gonna team up and go up against Sub-Zero, so that because no one's gonna beat him by himself. So Jax pretty much beats Riku without getting hit. And this is my problem with fighting films. Like, as much as I like fighting films, I don't like flawless victories. Like, even in the game, it's like I like characters to work for. So the fact that Jax just beats Riku without even getting hit once, I thought was ridiculous. Like, even after he got his arms, like, show that this character is a threat. Like, show Jax getting hit or taking a little bit damage somehow, because at least that's something they did in the Sonya and Kano fight. There was some solid back and forth action there. There was some solid back and forth action between Liu Kang and Cabal, and I don't even think Mileena hit Cole once. Like she's using her size and she's cutting at his armor. And I'm like, why are you attacking where he's protected? Go for God's sake, go for his head or something. So, so Jax pretty much beats up Riku and smashes his head. I swear, they were fighting in the pit, so they were fighting in the pit area. So I'm actually a little bit disappointed that he didn't just punch him off the side and just have him fall and hit the spikes on the bottom. I think that would have been a little bit more cool than Jax just smashing his head. And then Sonya's fighting Kano, and they get tossed outside Sonya's built apartment or her mobile home or whatever, trailer park. And she stabs Kano in the eye with like the gnome that he spit on, and she gets his mark, and so now she has the ability to use an Arcana, which I'll talk about in a few seconds. And then Liu Kang is fighting Cabal, and he like bicycle kicks him into some, I believe, oil, and that's where he summons his fire dragon, which is awesome. So I have no complaints there. And then out of like nowhere, so Cole is still fighting Mileena, and like Sonya just teleports in, and for whatever reason she just pops in, and then Cole throws Mileena to the side, and Sonya can just shoot her with her energy rings. Now, why is it that they never show Sonya figuring this stuff out? I mean, okay, Liu Kang and Kung Lao discovered their Arcana while they were training and while they were, in their upbringing. Okay, that's fine. Kano gets his Arcana by having just an emotional outbreak. Jax gets his ability when he needs it the most in order to save his friend, but they never established that Sonya ever figured out or even how to use her Arcana. She just, she kills Kano, and then the next time you see her, she just automatically knows how to use it. Like, plot convenience. Okay, so all the Outworld champions are dead except Sub-Zero. And then Sub-Zero shows up from one of Shang Tsung's portals, and he reveals that, oh, I have your family. And Cole runs after him. And I was like, he's not even following his own plan. Like, didn't he say that once we were done taking out all the Outworld champions, we're going to work together and take on Sub-Zero himself? But he doesn't do that. So he follows Sub-Zero through his portal, and he's back at his little training gym. And for whatever reason, Sub-Zero thought it was a cool idea just to freeze everything. And Cole sees that, his family has been frozen. And at that point, I'm thinking, oh, they're dead. Oh, this is great. This is awesome. It's like, wait a minute. Cole has just experienced the same, loss that Hanzo saw. And so I thought at some point, now that he, he has, the dagger or the spear, whatever it's called, from Hanzo, I figured, oh, he's gonna turn into Scorpion. That's what I thought was gonna happen. Like, he's gonna be able to summon his ancestor and become Scorpion. That's what I thought was gonna happen. So he's fighting Sub-Zero. He's getting his ass kicked. It looks like he's gonna die, and then he grabs the dagger. He starts getting cut from it, and then it starts to heat up, and then that summons Scorpion. Okay, and I'll say this: it's a pretty epic moment, because when Scorpion shows up, that's when the Mortal Kombat theme pops up, and that was a perfect moment to pop it up. So Scorpion and Sub-Zero are fighting, and Cole's still trying to bring out his family, trying to punch his family out of the ice, and the fight between Sub-Zero and Scorpion is pretty cool. And at some point, Scorpion and Cole kind of double team Sub-Zero, who's not doing too well. And they eventually beat him, and Hanzo says, leave him to me, and he actually performs his fatality from the first game, where he kind of removes his mask, and he sets him on fire, and he burns him, and that kills Sub-Zero. Okay, and in the process, he also, heats up the area, and that apparently saves Cole's family from being killed from being frozen. Which, honestly, I think would have helped the character more if his family had died, because now he would have had a real motivation to kind of stay with the fighters. He would have been like, oh, I lost my family, and it's because of Sub-Zero. But Shang Tsung is the person who sent Sub-Zero to my family, so now I'm pissed off, and now I want revenge on not just Sub-Zero, but Shang Tsung. But, let's not think too far ahead. So Hanzo kills Sub-Zero, and then he says, well, now my spirit is free, look after my bloodline, and then he goes away. Don't know if he returns to the Nether Realm or if he's just gone. They never established that. And then Raiden shows up with the other Earthrealm champions, and he's like, okay, well, you did well taking out Sub-Zero. And then Shang Tsung shows up, and he's like, well, you think you've won since you wiped out all my champions, but, they can be replaced, and death is just another portal. And he kind of teleports Bihan's body and Goro's body. I don't know why he would teleport Goro's body, but this kind of symbolizes that, in the next film, Bihan is going to become a new Cybot. And this line made me laugh. Like, so Shang Tsung says, no matter how many people you put in the ground, there'll always be more to replace them. And the next time you see me, I won't bring fighters. I'll bring armies. What I thought was ridiculous, because Shang Tsung doesn't have an army. You don't have an army, Shang Tsung. Shao Kahn has an army, and I don't think he's going to be too happy that you got Mileena killed, which they never established, which is ridiculous that they would kill up Mileena so easily. Like, Mileena is such a big character, and just to kind of treat her like a jobber is upsetting. And so, Raiden teleports Shang Tsung away, and he's gone, and I think at some point Cole says, like, I thought you can't interfere. And he just smiles. And so I'm like, so pretty much you can interfere whenever you want. You just choose not to. And after that, like, they kind of need to prepare for, like, the tournament. And he's like, I need to build another group. I need to establish a new list of champions, and you guys need to go find them. And in the last, like, scene, Cole is, like, getting ready to head to Hollywood. And he's like, oh, yeah, I need to go to Hollywood to pick someone. And they tease that, he's going to Hollywood in order to find Johnny Cage, and that's where the movie ends. And this movie is heavily flawed. There's a lot of story problems. There's a lot of editing problems with the fighting. There's a lot of, like, logical problems with just how the script and how the story is gone. But overall, I thought it was okay. There's just a number of, like, problems that just hold it back from being a great film. So overall, I thought Mortal Kombat was like a good entertaining film. I got what I wanted out of it, but, like, it could have been so much better. And it overall still doesn't, like, there are aspects of the film that I think makes it as a film a little bit superior to the 1995 first Mortal Kombat film. But overall, the first Mortal Kombat film is still vastly superior to this, because at least the first Mortal Kombat movie actually involved the tournament. The tournament is not even involved here. This is basically a prequel to the tournament, which I hope we will probably end up getting in the sequel. So yeah, that's my overall kind of like spoiler podcast review. Sorry, it's a little bit all over the place, but feel free to talk about spoilers or share your thoughts or your complaints in the comments down below. So that's about it. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this kind of extended spoiler podcast review of mine, just to share my overall thoughts on the overall film. And like always, I want to thank all of you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will see you next time.